What's up guys, welcome back to Let's Play Quake 2. Time for a bit of a bonus video here, as I wanted to demonstrate the difference between the original version, the one we're LPing, and this version, which is the PlayStation 1 version. And the most noticeable thing you'll notice right off the bat, obviously the graphics are not as good. The format is a lot different with the presentation and the menu screens and everything. I had to adjust my control scheme, because the controls are kind of the way that console shooters were back in the day, to where you only walked forward and backward with one analog stick and you turned left to right. So, but the control scheme is not fully customizable like in the other games, so we unfortunately do not have the ability to bind whatever function we want to whatever button, which means that, wow, I'm really failing at hitting this guy right off the bat. Which means that this control scheme, I am required to fire with L1 of all things, move with the D-pad, and control my camera with the right analog stick. And let's see, there's a secret over here. And that exploding box thing. And I have to jump with L2 and switch my weapons with R1 and R2. It's really weird. But it's the best control scheme there is, because it's the only one that has the whole lock strafe function, so it's pretty good. Now, another thing you'll notice is that this level is actually non-existent in the original version. This level does not exist at all, and that the actual beginning of the game is yet to come. That'll be through this area, I believe. That switch opens the door, I guess. And the enemies are all the same, but the sound effects are different as well. Like the sound effects that these guys have for their blasters, machine guns, and shotguns are all the same sound effects that we have. So for our weapons, so there's not another sound effect, and that's kind of lame. But I understand why they did it. They just didn't have enough processing power for that much sound, I guess. The nice thing about the blaster, though, is it is more rapid fire, and it is kind of easier to hit enemies with it. But overall, it's kind of hard to hit things in this version of the controls. The controls are just, in general, not as good as the original. And as you can see, the pace is a lot slower. And we can't move or jump as fast. Or as high, for that matter. But so here's the actual beginning of the game, as in the original version. Now, our computer automatically shows us what the update is. See, that's where our pod originally crashed in the original version. And so I didn't want to do an entire LP of this version, because they are, for the most part, the same game with a few differences. I just wanted to show off what those differences are and where they're relevant. The lighting is still pretty good in this game, though. You can see they have that basic lighting effect there, that fake dynamic lighting effect. But yeah, the presentation does look pretty good, though. The numbers down there look okay. As you can see, yeah, the blaster is pretty rapid fire. The effect is not as good, though, as the original version. But yeah, there's also, we're mainly given the option to save every time we go to another part of the level. So it's not like the other version where we can save manually anytime we want. We can load from within the level. If we die, we go back to right at the beginning of the level where the game told us to manually save. So it's a lot less convenient, and so it's a lot less fun to get through. Oh boy, here comes our first, what do you call it, enforcer. He's got a cool melee sound effect, but he's even more annoying to deal with in this game than he is in the original. And this version is the same game as the N64 version. The graphics are slightly different just because of the technical differences between the PS1 and N64. Otherwise, they're the same game. Now, if you notice right there, that's where the elevator was in the original version. Now it's over here for some reason. Don't know why that is, but now the game is going to ask us to manually save again. And the thing I probably dislike about this version of the game the most is every time you go into every time the game loads, like you go into a new section of a level, the music changes, so you don't get the music to play through the loading screens like you did in the original version, and it might change to a completely different song. So that's kind of lame. I don't particularly like that, especially when the soundtrack is this awesome, and they've actually added more songs to this version of the game, which is actually a really nice touch. That's one of the nice things about it. Here's a quick comparison with the original version. This is what the game looked like in the original version. This is the Xbox 360 port of the original PC version, the one we've been LPing. As you can see, the flow is much better, the frame rates are much better, we're a lot faster, we jump a lot higher, blah blah blah. all the things you've probably caught on to by now, and it looks great by comparison. And that health pack was kind of sitting on the edge a little bit in the other version. That's probably because we can't jump that far. And switch back. So that's the significance of the difference between these two games. So figured I'd show that off. And I believe these are the only two versions of the game. There's the original PC version, which is shared with the Mac version and the Xbox 360 version. Then there's this version, which is shared with the PS1 and the N64. So they're just the same. It's two different games shared between the different various ports. Kind of like a good analogy for this sort of thing would be Star Wars: The Force Unleashed, where there was two different versions. There was the version that was shared between the Xbox 360 and PS3, and the version that was shared between the PS2 and the Wii. We got the machine gun, which actually looks pretty nice in this version of the game. It doesn't look too bad with the decreasing graphics, but the really nice thing about it is we don't get that obnoxious recoil anymore, but apparently I have a hard time hitting things with it. And the game, for some reason, wants to auto-aim down at the corpses. So that's kind of nice, but that's probably because the game had auto-centering on originally, which I disabled manually. But yeah, if you absolutely had to play this version of the game, like it was, you only owned if for whatever reason you could only own a PS1 or a Nintendo 64, then that would be perfectly fine. It's still the same game, it's still a really good game, and it's really nice to pick up for collectability's sake if you wanted to have all the different versions of the game. And it's pretty nostalgic as well. It's just, you kind of have to take it a lot slower than the original version. It's not as fast-paced, it's not as, it doesn't run as smoothly, of course. Another thing that's different is here's the quad damage right here. When we pick up a power-up, it automatically activates, and we have to go ahead and make good use of it in the time allotted to us. But obviously in the original version, we could manually select them and activate them at will. Of course, I believe we don't have enough buttons to do that in this version, but I might be mistaken. This might have come out before the PS2 controllers with the analog sticks. Well, actually, I'm probably wrong about that because the way the control schemes are, it's probably used to adapt to both. And as you might notice, there is no lever on the other side of this bridge. There's instead a switch on the other side of the door there, which we can't get to. So this area is quite a bit different than in the original as well. And some of the textures are different. You might notice there might be a wall with a different texture than in the original version, or just minor little details like that. Cuts that had to be made to fit the technology. So I say this is a fairly decent port. It's not quite as bad as, say, like the Super Nintendo version of Doom, which this game, from what I have noticed, despite adding that first level at the beginning, does cut out a few parts of the game, which I won't be demonstrating because I'm only going to show the first big chunk of it that I recorded here. We're going to save again here, and interesting thing about this version, as I pointed out in the LP, is that they just go ahead and give you the double-barrel shotgun right here at the start of this level, and I mean, that does make it easier because this version's a little bit harder to control than the other version. Yeah, stuff just explodes at random when we use the double-barrel shotgun. That's how awesome it is. And so we don't have to go through that bonus level to get it, and in fact, the bonus level does not even exist in this version if you were to go in the water there and look for it. Our first parasite here, which, you know how much I love those guys. You blow up his corpse, darn right. But yeah, I'd still think the original version is better, especially with modern technology. You know, you can just pay $5 to get the Xbox 360 version of Quake 4, and if you get the bonus disc, you get this with it. I mean, maybe you should fork out maybe $15 or $20 for a sealed copy of Quake 4 if you're worried about that. There's no exploding barrels over here, so we can just simply make this jump over here to get that armor. I believe that was a quad damage in the other version, but it's just an armor here. Another loading screen. Well, I guess it doesn't make a save every time we go through a loading screen, but it does change the music, which is kind of annoying. I haven't actually beaten this version, so if there's any other changes later in the game, I might demonstrate those, or if there's any like new levels that don't exist in the other versions or something like that, or if there's like a major cut where they like remove entire chapters or something from the game to make it shorter, like they did with the Super Nintendo version of Doom, then I'll let you guys know. Because as far as I know, unless there's like a password system, when I played the Super Nintendo version of Doom, you only had Knee Deep in the Dead, like that was the entire game. But this ends my quick overview of the PlayStation 1 and N64 versions, so if you enjoyed it, then I say go ahead and look for it, but that's about all I wanted to show off there. I died, and I'm going to call it quits for now. So now we're back to resuming the normal LP with the original version of the game.